Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we can begin.
All right. Thank you very much. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Town of Hilton Head Island Parks and Recreation Commission. It is the appointed hour of 3:30. And at this time, if you would please, if you would say with me the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'll leave standing optional this time. So, I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag
United States
of
of
the
United
America,
United
States
States of America,
to the republic for
and
which it
to
and
stands,
to the republic to which it stands, one
one
nation,
nation
one
under God,
liberty and justice for all.
justice for all.
justice for all. Well, that was pretty good. Okay, so Eileen, are we in Freedom of Information Act compliance?
Yes, we are.
Excellent. Okay, so we'll have at this time the roll call, and Eileen, if you would please announce the roll, and I want to, after the roll, I want to make a couple of comments about Paul Bowes.
Okay. Mr. O'Karma,
Here.
Mr. Daly,
Here.
Mr. Dowling,
Here.
Mr. Monier,
Here.
Mr. Zarilla,
Here.
Mr. Kasaya.
Here. Okay, good. All right, the next thing on our agenda is the election of a new vice chair for our committee, for our commission. Paul Bowes has resigned from the commission, and as vice chair, it's a great thing. Paul got married, and he is moving. And I think he's closing on his new house the 1st of November, and we wish him all the best. Paul has been a great member of our commission and has served well as vice chairman. So at this time, I would like to ask for a motion to nominate one of you to be vice chair.
Mr. Chairman, this is Jerry O'Karma. I would like to place in nomination Jack Daly's name for the position of vice chair.
I would like to do that as well.
Jack has been a strong member of the commission. He attends regularly. He adds lots to what we're doing. He's involved in the community. He knows the parks. I mean, I can't imagine a better person to take the vice chair role, and I would like to so nominate him.
I second that nomination.
All right, we have a motion and a second to nominate Jack Daly. Are there any other nominations from the floor? Hearing none, I think then the nominations are should be closed. So at this time, we're going to vote yes or no to approve Jack Daly as vice chair. And Eileen, if you would please call the roll.
Mr. O'Karma,
Yes.
Mr. Zarilla,
Yes.
Mr. Monier,
Yes.
Mr. Dowling,
Yes.
Mr. Daly,
Yes.
Mr. Kasaya.
Yes. Congratulations, Jack. And
Hey, thank you, guys.
it's
It's a pleasure.
I look forward to working with you.
Thank you. It's a
Okay,
pleasure.
the next is on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from back in our, I believe it's the July 23rd meeting. And can I have a motion to approve the July 23rd minutes?
I put the
So
motion
moved.
in.
All right, we have a motion by, I think, Thomas Dowling. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Joe. Any discussion? If you have any changes, we'll state them when Eileen's going to call the roll for the vote. If you have any changes, state them then. Otherwise, just vote yes or no, okay? So, Eileen, if you would, let's call the roll and see if we can approve the minutes.
Mr. Zarilla,
Yes.
Mr. Monmonier,
Yes, but if you want to spell my name IER versus EAR at the end, that was the only thing that just for the record, I don't really care, but I just thought we'd like to be accurate.
I will fix that. Mr. Dowling,
Yes.
Mr. Daly,
Yes.
Mr. Okama,
Yes.
Mr. Kasaya.
Yes. Thank you very much. All right. Okay, I think the next on the agenda are citizen comments. And if I remember, we have, I think, 3. Is that right? And Marcy, I believe, is going to tell us all about it.
Yes, good afternoon. This is Marcy Benson for the record. The public comments concerning agenda items were submitted electronically via the town's open town hall portal, and the public comment period closed today at 1:30. The public comments that were submitted through the open town hall portal were provided to the commission for review and made part of the official record, and they will be included with the minutes. There was also, citizens were provided the opportunity to sign up for public comment participation by phone during the meeting, and there were 2 requests from citizens to speak on the agenda, and I believe Eileen has those phone calls ready to go. Eileen, are you ready?
Mr. Chairman, if you would like for public comment, you may call on Mr. Skip Hoagland.
Okay. Yes. So, Mr. Hoagland, I think you have 3 minutes.
Afternoon to everybody. It is my opinion, based on facts, the Hilton Head Chamber and other nonprofits need to be defunded and are simply a combination of illegal use of tax funds and wasteful spending. We need to invest locally. The hired ATAX-funded DMO, currently the Hilton Head Chamber, is not only illegally operated, but this old failed promotion and marketing business model has been totally replaced by internet technology, local search, social media, and over 100,000 local Facebook accounts in Beaufort County. Local marketing efforts of independent companies and hotels and resorts factor into this as well, and much more. The millions in tax money we just hand shyster Bill Miles to pay his $400,000 salary generated from our tax monies, and his cronies not to only legally use but launder this money, needs to be used for practical, transparent, needed purposes that benefits all tourists, locals, their guests, families, etc. Example, bike paths, beach repairs, boat ramps, park recreational facilities, and more police, etc. We all must join to stop Steve Riley, Josh Gruber, and our current highly corrupted town council from continuing and allowing the secret, illegal, and criminal misuse of millions of our hard-earned tax money. And this includes all of your money. Everybody pays taxes. Does anyone have any questions or comments for me? And again, I've been very vocal about all this, and I have made an unusual offer. And as everybody knows, I'm offering $1 million to anybody that can prove me wrong. And I'm very disappointed in Glenn Stanford. Glenn Stanford needs to be removed, as does David Ames. They both are involved with the Greater Secret Island Council, and Mr. Stanford has refused, as Ames has refused, to make this chamber sign a contract to show us what they've done with millions of dollars. So you folks need to speak up, stand up like I do, not be in fear, and stop the corruption. And the only way to do it is to stand up and speak up on this subject. And so thank you very much for your time, and I wish you lots of luck, and I thank you for your service. But your service is going to require to speak up and stand up and not be silenced. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Hoagland. Okay. Any comments from the commissioners? If not, Eileen, we'll go to the next one.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, that would be Mr. Frank Soul.
Okay. Frank, we'd love to hear from you. I think you have 3 minutes.
Well, I guess I was a little confused on this. I really was more interested in hearing what was going to happen under B. And if we were in a normal meeting, I would usually be able to provide my 2 cents worth.
Okay. All right.
So I have no comment. I was just trying to get my 2 cents worth in, Butch, if you allow me to have it, if I do have a comment later on in some of the new business. If not, I'll just hang up and watch you guys on Facebook.
Just hang in there. I think we'd like to hear from you. So.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Okay. All right. So that's it for citizen comments. Let's move on to reports. And the next report would be, if I had done the agenda correctly, something that I think we would want to hear about, the Parks and Rec Master Plan update that Taylor is ready to do. We're actually going to take that and move it into the business that actually Frank was talking about. The only thing really that I have that can be reported is that the fact that the council did approve and adopt our Parks and Recreation Master Plan at its last council meeting. So that's a big deal. So I congratulate all of you. That's right. That's right, Taylor. Great job. So if you'll bear with me in my agenda writing, let's move on. I don't think we have any unfinished business, so let's go to new business. And the first is a proposed Parks and Recreation Commission meeting schedule for 2021. And I think that was in your agenda packet, if I remember correctly. And let's see if I can go find it here. So, yeah, it was in the agenda packet. It's a monthly meeting, the first one being January the 14th, which happens to be my birthday, but that's okay. So are there any comments about next year's meetings, and are there any things that we might need to change? And I'll open that up to discussion. So I think Eileen calls the roll again.
Mr. Okarma,
I'm good with it. Yes.
Mr. Daly,
Yes.
Mr. Dowling,
Yes.
Mr. Zarilla,
Yes.
Mr. Monmonier,
Yes.
Mr. Kasaya.
Yes. All right. So if we're good with that, that's what we'll try to meet. And if I recall, I think all of our meetings are at 3:30, and so we'll see how long we keep doing the virtual thing. But so far, I think it's the right thing to do.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, this is Marcy.
Hey,
I
Marcy.
don't believe we had a motion to approve that. Eileen, do we need a motion to approve the agenda schedule?
Yes, we do.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay. We just
all right.
need a
So
motion and a second.
I'll entertain a motion for the calendar to be accepted.
I move the calendar second.
Okay. We have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. Any discussion? Not hearing any. Then Eileen, if you would call the roll and we'll vote on it.
Mr. Zarilla,
Yes.
Mr. Monmonier,
Yes.
Mr. Dowling,
Yes.
Mr. Daly,
Yes.
Mr. Okama,
Yes.
Mr. Kasaya.
Yes. Okay, we have a calendar. All right, so the next thing would be discussion of the town council resolution for park planning, programming, and funding and implementation of action items based on the Parks and Recreation Master Plan recommendations. And I think Taylor is going to talk about that. And so I'll turn it over to Taylor Ladd. Hi, Taylor.
Hey there. Good afternoon, you guys. My name is Taylor Ladd, and I'm senior planner for the town and project lead for our plan and the Parks and Recreation Master Plan Initiative. So I am going to give you guys an update about the master plan first, if you don't mind, and then Jennifer's going to jump in and talk a little more specifics about the resolution, if that's all right. So I got a little presentation for you. And, okay, we have it on the screen. Sweet. Today I'm presenting you an update about the master plan process, where we've been and where we're going next, which includes some very exciting opportunities for you all and the island community to participate in the planning process. The town's overarching Parks and Recreation Master Plan is a multi-step process. In August of 2019, town hired Lowe's Design to prepare a Parks and Recreation Master Plan for the island. Lowe's Design worked with town staff, the Parks and Rec Commission, our planned Parks and Recreation Task Group, and the island community to develop this report. After an extensive community engagement period and professional assessment, Part 1 of the master plan was presented to the Parks and Rec Commission in July and adopted by Town Council this past Tuesday. Woohoo! This part of the plan delivered by Lowe's is an informative and data-driven analysis that serves as a starting point for the larger process that entails planning and development for our Parks and Recreation system. Adoption of this document by Town Council is a very exciting step for our effort. Part 1 includes recommendations for improvement to existing parks, beach parks, and recommendations for new park construction. On this map, the green parcels are our parks and the blue parcels are our beach parks. The consultant also evaluated the island's 64-mile multi-use pathway network with things such as our bike and pedestrian facilities and many different pathway amenities. They also did an extensive review of our sports facilities, maintenance and operations, park amenities like bathroom buildings and playgrounds, recreation programming, interpretation and education, and our recreation providers with a specific focus on the Island Recreation Association. Part 1 lays the groundwork and provides research that is integral to taking the next steps towards progress for Parks and Recreation. Part 2 is how this information was incorporated into the Parks and Recreation element of our plan, the town's new 20-year comprehensive plan, which we anticipate will be adopted later this month. Out of this part of the process, we have a vision that Hilton Head Island is recognized for best-in-class parks and recreation by building diversity of recreation, arts, and quality of life offerings for all residents and visitors. It includes integration of findings from Part 1, such as the park gap analysis, shown here on the left. The Parks and Recreation Task Group worked on goals and strategies about community value, best-in-class facilities and programs, programming, water, pathways, sports, funding, and accessibility. And it includes the initial and final recommendations from Part 1. Upon analysis of the findings from Part 1 and hearing back from the community about the results of the study, staff also identified town action items that can be considered in addition to the Part 1 recommendations in the areas of existing and proposed parks, recreation facilities, programming, funding, maintenance, and operations. So now that we have all this information, this research, these recommendations for our island's parks and rec system, what comes next? I know you guys are all wondering. Yay, Part 3! I am excited today to launch Part 3 of the town's Parks and Rec Master Plan Initiative. In this part of the process, we will be working with the community and stakeholders to prioritize the wealth of recommendations and action items that have been generated so far. We will also be looking to hear from you and the community about the proposed programming for the 3 major parks that the Los Design Consultant presented as our first priority for major park development. These are Chaplain Community Park, and hope you guys can enjoy this kind of retro site plan for Chaplain, as well as for Crossings Park, and the new Mid-Island Track, which is located on the town-owned portion of the old Planters Row Golf Course in the Port Royal area. This will actually be a brand new community park for our island. Now, how will we do this? Well, it will take support from Town Council, of course. And I have Jennifer Ray here, who is the Deputy Director of Development, to help fill in with the details.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Taylor. In September, staff took a resolution to Town Council, which they adopted September 15th, that authorized staff to move forward with recommendations per the Parks and Rec Master Plan. That included planning and development, as well as identification of funding sources. It also included, just for the record, refinement of plans for Chaplain Linear Park and the pathway enhancements and parking as part of the Shelter Cove connectivity project. But what this resolution does is say that the master plan that they adopted on Tuesday night, that staff can move forward with the next steps, which, as Taylor mentioned, are prioritization and detailed planning for those 3 major parks and prioritization of all of the recommendations, which is where you and the community come in to help us do that, is this next part of the Parks and Rec Master Plan.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. So we have some exciting opportunities planned to get this process in motion. Given the current norm, we are offering multiple types of opportunities for each of you to join this conversation. First, we will be hosting a survey, tentatively starting this Monday on Open Town Hall. The survey will have questions about the 3 parks and your preferences for prioritizing the recommendations. And I will need help from everyone listening to get this survey out there. This is much more refined from the survey that our consultant did last fall to get general information. This time we have our exact recommendations and action items that we want help with from the community to pinpoint. Second, staff will be hosting 3 virtual town halls for Parks and Recreation, where we will present information about the projects, get feedback from each of you and the community with live polling and answering questions. These will be on October 19th at 5 p.m., October 23rd at 10 a.m., and October 28th at 2 p.m. Of course, subject to change, but keep your eyes on the town's meeting calendar for updates. You'll be able to watch these meetings live on the town's Facebook meeting page, or we will also distribute a link so you can join the meeting as a participant and take part in the polling. Finally, we'll have 2 open park days where staff will be set up in a park with maps and stickers so we can get outside at a park together and continue the conversation, socially distanced, of course. The first will be November 5th at Jarvis Creek Community Park from 1 to 5 p.m. And the second meeting will be November 12th at Shelter Cove Community Park from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So with all of these opportunities to participate, you can participate in one or all of them. They will all have the same information that we're gathering. So we just have different types of ways that you can participate in the process. With all of this going on, we certainly have a few ways for you to stay informed. Follow the town's Facebook page for posts about all the events and the meetings. You can subscribe to our e-subscription service. If you already received emails from the town about our plan through the Our Plan subscription, you will automatically be included in this one. Starting Monday, staff will be sending out a very brief newsletter with the week's events or meetings with an update about how you can participate. Finally, check out our landing page for Parks and Recreation master plan on the town's website. Hopefully it'll show up. There we go. So we have a new page on here, and this page will grow as we add more information about the project with the meeting schedule, newsletters, and project information. And if you go to this page, you can see on the left, we'll have more items added to this, and we have a place where you can sign up to subscribe for the newsletter. After all this information gathering from you guys this fall, what happens next? Your input will help with the next level of conceptual planning for the 3 major parks this winter and into spring 2021. It will also give town officials guidance on where to focus our capital improvements planning and policy for parks and recreation over the next several years. Thank you so very much, and I'm excited about what's coming next for our parks and recreation. I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Thanks, Taylor. Jennifer, thank you. And if we were meeting in person, I'd be handing out the bottles of champagne as we speak. This has been a long time coming. I mean, many years of work to get this plan approved, get the support that we've gotten with town council, getting where we are today. So I applaud everybody that's been involved, staff, especially Taylor, a great job shepherding this all the way through, and just want to say thank you very much. So at this time, I want to see if anyone has any questions, first to Taylor or to Jennifer about what these next steps are, and especially concerning the Our Plan portion of the comprehensive plan, the Parks and Rec portion of that plan. So I'll open that up for discussion, and I think, Eileen, you have a discussion order to go down. Is that right?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Mr. Okarma.
No, I am just thrilled. I can only echo what Butch has said. It's been many years. It has been. This is my second 3-year term, and believe me, we've been talking about this for many, many years, and the steps that took us to this process, to this where we are right now. So thank you, Taylor. Thank you to the staff. Thank you to everybody who's worked on this, the task force and town council and everybody else. I have no questions. I've read it already offline.
Okay.
Mr. Daly.
Yes, this is a good thing. Like Jerry said, we've been working for many years on this. I also thank staff and elected officials for helping us get here. And I think with the commission members we have now, Butch, Joe, Thomas, Jerry, I think we've got the right people on at the right time to move forward with this. And maybe in the past few years didn't quite have the commission ready to do this or capable of this, but I think now we do. And this is going to be fun work. It's going to be fun and very exciting, and I'm looking forward to it. No questions.
Okay. Mr. Dowling.
No questions. I'm excited. I wasn't on the council, on the board, whatever, for the last few years, but I've heard that it's been a long time coming, so I'm excited.
Mr. Monmonier.
Yes, I'm also a newbie to this committee, but or commission. Very excited to be at an exciting time. My only question is, when do we start breaking ground? I hear about more surveys and more committees and more voting. I want to know when the shovels start hitting the ground, if you have that approximate time.
Sir, I believe that we're looking to do that. Maybe Jennifer should answer.
I don't think we have a specific timeline yet, but if we start, if we wrap this phase up this fall in, December or so and get the RFP out on the street to hire a consultant to do the site-specific planning, that's a few months worth of work. And then for council to decide that, yes, we're ready to move forward with whichever part comes out as being the top priority, then we would do the construction documents and permitting and be ready to start construction. So we're a good ways away from those three big parks, Crossings, Chaplin, and the Mid-Island Tract. But there are a lot of other recommendations that were in the master plan for park improvements that aren't one of those big three. That's quite possible that something happens along the way before that. Our facilities maintenance division, management division, Julian Walls and his team have park upgrades that they do along the way, and a lot of that stuff will happen in there, whether it work at Barker or pickleball or some of the other things that are priorities. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it could be a year or two before you see any construction. It'll just be a little while before we can get to those three big parks where you're taking a segment of recreation offline to build something brand new from scratch.
So it sounds like we're talking less than 5 years instead of 10 to 20. More near range for sure.
Yeah, more short term, and we plan to keep obviously the commission involved as well as the community along the way. We can't do this without the involvement of this group, and so we will be coming back to you regularly, asking for input and giving you updates. And so as soon as schedules start to solidify more, we'll be giving you that information. But right now our plan is to wrap up this part of the process in December. We were shooting to have a discussion by the town council workshop, which you may have heard the mayor announced Tuesday that they're going to push back until later in January. But we're going to try to wrap this up before the Christmas holiday so that we're ready to get that RFP out on the street and get a consultant in here to start, putting pen to paper.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Zarilla.
Yes, I only have a couple short comments. I want to thank everybody who's preceded us. I'm new also, but I think it's obvious there's been a great deal of work done, and I just want to say that I'm committed to kind of it's helping on the execution, and I think it's very important that we keep pushing hard so that it's executed effectively and efficiently, and 5 years seems like a long time, but I can hardly wait to see the benefits of that. So I just want to say, thank you to everybody, and I'm committed to helping out in any way I can to make this a success. It's a fine document, really, and it's a necessary document, but I think it's important we execute now. That's my only comment.
Mr. Kasaya.
Okay. Well, I echo everybody's comments. There are a couple things. I would like to have the commission involved as we look at selecting the design teams for our consulting to actually do the specific site plans involved in the selection process, if possible. I would also like to bring up at this point questions have been raised to me about the first reading of the hour plan. The last draft that I had seen, I think, had a high level position in the town government for Parks and Recreation to help get us a seat at the table. And my understanding is now that has been taken away from the hour plan. And I'm not sure if the position is actually named. I think a lot of the duties that this position was going to do, I think it's still in there. But I wanted to bring that up to your attention. But before I get into that, and I'm getting ahead of myself here, I know Frank Sewell is still on the phone, I think, and I did promise him a chance to make some comments. And so, Frank, if you'd like to talk about this item or bring us up to date with what's going on with Island Rec, and then we'll come back to finish the discussion. So, Frank, are you there?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. There's a lag time on the video and from what I'm hearing on the sound. But having said that, I would just let you know part of the stuff, part of the things that were in the master planning process was the working at the Sailing and Rowing Center. And I'm really excited to announce that this Monday we had our first kayaking program go out. And that's something that was part of that master planning process and one of the recommendations for us that could move programming down there. So I'm pretty excited about, as you guys talked about a little bit earlier, about picking off some low-hanging fruit. And they're one of the recommendations that we've been kind of charging off and trying to move forward with. And we're pretty excited about that opportunity and look forward to expanding programs down there. Once again, as Taylor knows, the Island Rec Association is here to help Taylor and Jennifer with whatever they need in the planning process, from getting the word out to the community to our staff attending meetings, helping set up or similar, making the Island Rec Center available, or even outside here at the Island Rec Center available for any additional meetings or whatever they need to do. We're here to help and making sure this process goes forward. So I'm very excited about the opportunity and look forward to working with everybody in the process of the planning process. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank. Everything else at Island Rec going well?
Yeah, everything's good. If you have a meeting next month, I'll plan on giving a full report and be an agenda item, kind of give you an update.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Okay. So anyway, I wanted to just bring this up for discussion, and I want to preface these remarks by making sure that everybody understands I'm not looking for a job. That's not what this is about. I don't want a job, to be honest with you. I'm retired. But I think that it's important that from the history that I've seen about Parks and Recreation on the island and how we've taken care of facilities, we need somebody within town government that's in a position to state our case, that has the professional knowledge and has the expertise, and also has the ear of the town manager to be able to, when it comes time to have a budget discussion or to capital improvements or whatever it might be, that we're really represented in town government. And I've said that from the very beginning, so I don't think that's news to anybody. So when I understood that position was in the IR plan, the final draft of the IR plan, and then at the first reading, I found out from several folks that it's not in there anymore. I just wanted to bring that up for discussion to see what you folks as commission members thought about that, and also to hear any comments, from staff. I know, Jennifer, you sent me some stuff, and I hope everybody understands the bottom line is this would be a town employee, and that's up to the town manager. But I hope what I'm trying to get at is, if the town is going to be serious about Parks and Recreation, we need to change the way we're doing some things. And one of those changes is to have a position within town government that is responsible for Parks and Recreation. So having said that, I'll open the floor, and I guess the way we have to do it is go back down through the discussion order. So if you got something you'd like to say about it, I guess before we get into this, if Jennifer, if you would be interested in going first and kind of giving us what you know, that would be a great thing.
Yes, please. Thank you, Butch. Thanks, Commission. First of all, I just want to start and say that our town government, our town manager, our CIP staff are all very pro Parks and Recreation. I'm sure over the years you've noticed how much money from the town, how much time is spent there, that Parks does have a seat at the table. While it's not a one particular person. The draft of our plan did have a recommendation to consider. Everything, of course, is prefaced with consider because this is a guide for town council, a policy guide. Mm-hmm. And it said a parks director and listed a set of duties. As staff reviewed that, we went back to the Parks and Recreation Master Plan where Los did not recommend a creation of a department because of the work and our relationship with the Island Recreation Association, the work that our engineering, our public projects and facilities does, the good working relationship we have together. The consultant did not believe there was a need to create a department. Within our organization, typically a director title is a department head. So if there's not a department, you wouldn't have a director. Therefore, staff believed it was best to change the comprehensive plan language, which is not the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. There was nothing changed in there. But in the comprehensive plan, to stick with the way it's written as a policy guide, it's the high-level document, not the how-to do it document. And so we recommended a change in there to say, consider staffing modifications to mitigate identified gaps in delivery of parks and recreation services. The same 5 things that were identified as being important, including maintenance, liaison with Parks and Rec, CIP and budgeting, community engagement, all of those things were still listed in there. But what this change does is give the town manager and town council the flexibility to identify if that's a new full-time employee, to call that person whatever they want. It might not be director, in that sense of the word. It could be a different title, and that the comp plan doesn't need to pin down who or what that person is called. So it still gives that sort of flexibility. What we told the people that reached out to us on Monday and Tuesday before going to council, if you think there needs to be something in there that says for council to consider a director, that is definitely within your purview, your right and responsibility as a citizen of our community to share with council your thoughts and concerns. However, we pointed out to them that as a policy guide, as a policy document, it's high level, and that any of the recommendations that staff put in there, they can take or leave. We're not the ones dictating how they do this. But this would give our leadership an opportunity. If town council said, hey, we want to start pursuing these action items, the first one we want to do is look at somebody to take care of these tasks that the plan identified as being not to the community's level of satisfaction. Town manager, how do you propose to take care of this? The town manager can figure out, well, we want it to be a full-time employee. That means a budget change for town council. Get into that nitty-gritty, that's not for the comp plan to do. That's for the town management to do at the time that town council directs they want to pursue that recommendation. So that's just for clarification, because I know some of you were in a back and forth with a small group in email, and I provided that explanation on behalf of staff, and then some more of you got looped in later. And just so that everyone knows, that's what the language says. That's what the change that staff recommended to the council on Tuesday. They chose to move it forward for second reading on October 20th with the changes that the comp plan committee and planning commission and staff had recommended and did not bring up that as a concern. I think because they know that if they want to have a director, they're going to make a director, that's not needs to be spelled out that way. But knowing what a person needs to be doing to make our Parks and Recreation system best in class is the information that's important to town council and town leadership. And then just before, so I don't forget, Butch, you mentioned about the commission being involved in selection of the design team. Typically, the way our procurement policy states is that that's a staff responsibility. We have in the past shared the RFP with the commission. We obviously give updates as to how many responses we get and who we're bringing in for an interview, who we select. But if you want a specific seat at that table, that's out of the norm. And I would suggest, as the chairman, Butch, you would contact the town manager, Steve Riley, and make that request and see where that goes. But all that staff can commit to do is keep you updated on as much information as I can possibly provide, but I can't give you that seat at the table. But if you have any questions about that or about our plan change that we made or how you would go about getting a director, I'd be happy to talk about that in more detail.
Okay. All right. So we've broached the subject, and I wanted to give the commissioners an opportunity to make any comments or any discussion that you might have, and then if there is something that the commission wants to do, we can discuss that. I appreciate Jennifer's response there. So with that, Eileen, if you would call the discussion order, that'd be great.
Mr. Zarilla.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I read some of the email went on about this position. And also, the last meeting, I think one of the concerns I raised was, and you've heard it in my comments before, was the execution of this. And I simply do not see how a plan of this scope that we're going to spend this much money would not have a strong advocate for the program, and somebody who's has some incentive behind meeting the budgets and keeping things on time and on track. And just for the scope of the project, it's a full-time position. I think somebody needs it. It needs a champion, or I'm really convinced that it just, things will happen, but it'll take longer. And I couldn't conceive of spending that much money without somebody really responsible, one person who will take responsibility for this, to organize it, to do everything, to make sure that it gets completed and completed on time, is essential for the project. So, I could just foresee things going and going and going along, and, taking twice as long and costing twice as much if somebody's not in charge. So I'd be a very strong opinion that there needs to be a director, and with something like investment in new property, building new facilities, and then maintaining them, something's going to fall down, maybe maintenance or something like that. So I feel very strongly that somebody should be in charge of this. So that would be it for me.
Okay.
Mr. Dowling.
I agree on the looking at it. Usually there needs to be some accountability, and I agree that having a director would create that accountability. At the same time, I'm new to the commission, so I'm willing to hear out what the other opinions are. But my first reaction to all this is that it would make sense to have a director who is accountable. When you have accountability, that's when things get done. If there is no accountability, and I'm sure in the process that's being recommended, there would still be some, but a director would be the ultimate responsibility, and that's when things get done.
Mr. Manir.
I mean, I agree with everything that everyone's saying. I'm not going to go over that again, but I'd like for Butch, on behalf of us, to ask Mr. Riley if we can be at the table. I feel like we at least ask if we could be there to help in that process. If you would do that on behalf of us, that'd be great.
Mr. Okarma.
Yes, from my standpoint, the justification for softening the language, it doesn't make sense. And the reason I say that is that town council can always do what they believe is right. I mean, if this would have been done by town council years ago, we wouldn't have needed a plan. So, that I just think that what's going to end up happening is that the position is never going to happen. It's too squishy. Actually, the roadmap is what people are going to be looking to. And the roadmap right now is, it's not strong enough in terms of someone playing that pivotal role. Now, from my standpoint, I know I come from corporate America, that titles mean a lot. And boy, you can't call someone a director or else that's going to make a manager unhappy or whatever. Frankly, I don't care what we call the person. However it fits in, it's got to be someone that is at a senior level, that has a seat at the table. And if director is going to cause all kinds of heartburn, then I really don't care what we call that person. Butch already said, look, we're not doing this because anybody wants the job, and that's obvious, but that is true. And the second thing is, I think we need to say that nobody, I'll speak for myself, and I'm sure it's true, the commission, nobody has anything but the highest respect for Frank at the Island Rec Center. So this is not like someone's taking shots or something's wrong. It's just that the decision made by town council to outsource as it's been outsourced was done in the 80s. We were a different island at the time. We had different parks at the time. We had different number of people here. We had different number of tourists here. So I think that it is, this commission has always viewed this as an opportunity to take a fresh look from 2020 or 2018, 2019, 2020, what makes sense, not what made sense back in 1985. There's going to be a lot of money involved. There's going to be more parks involved. And the last comment I'd made is that we've seen over the years the lack of the one-stop shopping. We've got people who don't know where to go in terms of, who do I talk to about maintenance? Who do I talk to about scheduling? Who do I talk to about improvements? It's all different people. And so there has to be one person, in my judgment, that needs to be responsible for pointing people in the right direction and stewarding our spend and the activities that we undertake. That's just my opinion.
Mr. Daly?
Yes, Jerry is spot on. We need to have one-stop shopping. We need to have one person in charge. Most towns, not even half our size, have a Parks and Rec department. So if we have a director, if you want to give them a different name, someone needs to be in charge. And even if it's a small department, you need to have that accountability. You need to have that big seat at the table with the town. This Thanksgiving, either you're sitting at the table with the adults or you're sitting at the kids' table with the dog parked underneath your feet. We need to be, at the big table, at the top level, with a director or head, whatever you want to call it. And that's what we need to do, kind of suggesting something that's squishy and open to interpretation or downgrading later. It's just going to cause us problems and isn't going to get the job done. So we need what we need to get this job done. There's a lot of money involved. There's a lot at stake. This is our future. This is a big plan. This is many years in the making. So having a small department and a person there that can kind of bridge all these silos we have between arts and Island Rec and other programs and other vendors, we'll need someone at a high level to do this. And so we shouldn't be afraid about it, and we should go forward with it. And I agree with Joe and Butch. I'd be happy to talk to Steve Riley about being involved at a higher level for this process, getting a seat at the table for this. If we need all hands on deck for this. We need to be involved, and we don't need it drifting or going sideways or just getting put on the back burner and just being a nice concept like Bridge to the Beach or something that never came through. So, I think we need someone like a director, and if you're not called a director, still all the capabilities, but with a different name and maybe even a small department with people attached underneath that, at least for the time being, to get this big project done in the next 5 or 10 years. So those are my comments.
Mr. Kasaya?
Well, my opinion on all this is the same as it was the first day that we met to start talking about doing these plans and started meeting with the task force to do the hour plan. And that is, I think Jerry and I think everyone has the right thoughts. The thing that struck me at the first meeting we had was the fact that nobody had one person they could go to get their questions answered. Nobody knew where to go, how to get maintenance done, or when programming needed maintenance to be done. There was just a lot of questions about that. I think a good bit of that has been clarified with the town taking over maintenance of most of the parks on the island. Hopefully the town council and the commissioners for the county can get their differences worked out, and we can go ahead and take over the rest of those facilities. I think Island Rec does a great job with programming and does a great job running the Island Rec Center. Frank is a true professional. But it's, I think one of the comments I read was, if we had somebody that was really watching after Parks and Recreation, we wouldn't have had the issue that we had with the tennis courts there on Cordilla. I guess from my experience, it's Parks and Recreation has to continually fight to be an essential service in any community. And to me, having somebody in a high level within the town that can be the champion, as was stated earlier, is very important. And I'm really hoping that we can see that happen. Again, I understand the bottom line is the council is going to tell the manager what he needs to do, and the manager needs to follow that. In a way, I hated to see that be taken out, because I think what I felt like it did was it showed from the task force deliberations and from the deliberations we had with the council, with the commission, that it was a high level position we were looking for. And I think by not having that title, it downgrades that. But I'm with everybody else. I don't care what it's called. It could be a manager or anything else. But it needs somebody that can really put their hands around everything that we're doing with Parks and Recreation and make sure that it's organized and administered correctly. Now, I think I may be wrong at this one, but I believe that when the cultural arts position was developed, I don't think there's an office of cultural arts, and I don't know what her title is, but I think it's director. I'm not sure, but I think that's right. But there's no department; there's just an office. So I hope that that what we have discussed here today, if nothing else, will be conveyed to the council that their Parks and Recreation Commission would like to see this happen. And I don't know how we go about doing that. If we need to, pass a resolution that town council be informed that the commission is in favor of a high level position. I don't know, but if somebody wants to do something like that, we can do that. the bottom line is council's going to make the decision, and the manager is the one that carries out the wishes of council. So I really don't know what else to say other than it really, I think we've done so good in getting the plan done and getting all the recommendations into the comprehensive plan based on the justifications from the master plan. And I kind of felt like that we got all this done, and then to me, one of the most important things at the last minute got taken out. And it, to me, it was, we're going to do all this stuff, but there's nobody that's dedicated to Parks and Recreation that's riding herd on all of this. And I'm not throwing stones at staff. I think they've done a great job. I mean, golly, look at the parks that we have and everything on the island. I think, they're doing great work. I've got to hand it to maintenance. They do a very good job with what they have to work with. One of the comments back a year or so ago from Julian was, he only had a few guys in maintenance. Well, if we're going to take care of all these parks, who's going to champion the idea that we need a honest to goodness park maintenance division? Well, we need somebody that will do that. So anyway, that's my comments, and I'll leave it up to the commission to decide what if any action it would like to take.
Well, Butch.
Thank you.
Butch, Jack Daly.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's say this. What if we made a motion to reinstate the language that we put in, but we replaced the term, since director apparently has some syntax ramifications that we were not quite aware of, with manager, okay? And that would allow the town manager flexibility on what he wants to call the person who's going to do exactly what we need to do. Do you think that would that would work? That we could make a motion saying that to replace the language, instead of director, insert manager, Parks and Rec manager, and then have that go forward as our recommendation to town council? Do you think that would get the point across without weakening any structures that we're trying to set up?
Wow. I think the important, I don't think it really matters what we call it, as long
Right.
as long as the manager and upper level town staff and the council understand that we're looking for a position that is high in the hierarchy of town government. So if you wanted to do that and say we want, I would say if I were doing, and I can't do the motion, but if I were doing the motion, I wouldn't give a particular term. I would just say that based on the first reading, with the term director being stricken, something to that effect, that the commission reiterates the need for a high level employee within the town structure. Does that make sense?
I second that.
Yeah.
One.
So the motion could be, we could make the motion that the Parks and Rec Commission, having the term director been stricken from our plan wording, that we wish to inform town council that we feel there should be a high level town staff official in charge of all the things we mentioned the director would do. And how would we finish that phrasing?
I don't know, any
Jerry?
suggestions?
Jerry, how
Yes.
can we finish that phrase to wrap up what we would want to say? Because we would say, having the term director stricken from the R plan, we, the Parks and Rec Commission, would like to inform town council that. Go ahead.
Yeah. In light of the fact that the term director was deleted from the plan, the Parks and Recreation Commission would like to convey its strong feeling that the final plan needs to include a senior level Parks and Recreation individual to manage, to oversee and manage the key duties of involved in executing the plan, executing the strategic plan.
And the daily operations of Parks and Rec. Would we want to say that as well?
Right, right.
And that person would also be a staff member,
Yeah.
town staff member. Okay. So if you could make the motion in light of the term director being stricken from our plan, the Town Parks and Rec Commission would like to inform the town council that we wish, as we had before, that a high-level town staff official be put in charge of helping develop and implement the Parks and Rec master plan and our plan, and also serve as a liaison between different Parks and Rec vendors in the town, as well as oversee day-to-day Parks and Rec activities. Does that sound good?
I would, this is Bill, I would change wish to recommend or something like that, or strongly recommend. I think wish is a little wishy-washy for me, if you don't mind.
Okay, so
But
we can take out wish.
other than that, I think that's good.
Okay, so Tom, are you writing this down as we go?
Me?
All right, so we need the exact wording. Okay, so
We'll need to repeat that.
all right, so I'll make a motion in light of the term director being stricken from our plan, Parks and Rec. The Parks and Rec Commission hereby informs the town council that we wish, as we suggested earlier, that the town have a high-ranking staff official to help design portions of the Park and Rec Master Plan, as well as oversee the implementation of the Parks and Rec Master Plan, as well as oversee the day-to-day activities of all of our Parks and Rec activities, as well as act as a liaison between our different Parks and Rec vendors. That's the motion. And,
If I could jump
yeah.
in with a recommendation,
sure.
To make this simple, how about you recommend that town council not accept staff's proposed change and keep it as is,
Okay.
if that's the way
Yeah.
you liked it? And then go on
Okay.
to say, if they do accept that, then you urge the town to consider filling a position at a high level to manage the identified needs. Because
Okay.
those things are already in there, the 5 things. I don't think you have to keep trying to go around it. And then you're hitting it both ways. If they just don't do what we
Right.
suggested, then what's in there is the way you wanted it. And if they do, then you urge them to fill a position. So you're getting
Okay, so-
covering it both ways. And we could, if the town manager agrees, we could submit it to town council under a separate cover, because our plan will go as no changes for second reading, but we could submit this as well and say that at your meeting today, you made a motion, and so that town council would get it for the meeting.
Well, I second that.
Okay, so basically we're
I
saying
can't make the
we're asking
motion.
town council to not accept changes to our plan specifically as they pertain to the position of director. And part 2 is we're strongly suggesting the hiring of a high-level town staff official to oversee the R Plan Parks and Rec, as well as the master plan, as well as act as a liaison between different parks and Parks and Rec vendors. That's our
Well,
motion.
can't we just say The whole first part you said, and then say the high level person to execute the duties identified in the plan?
There we go. Okay.
Because there's
Execute
more
duties.
than
I'll
that.
write that down.
Okay. So I would, if you're
Okay.
making that motion, I would second that one. Well,
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I don't want to take your gavel away from you. Go ahead.
No, let's tidy up the language one more time. We, the Parks and Rec Commission, are asking the town council to not accept changes to our plan, specifically those changes made to the position of director. Okay. The second part is we are asking the town council, and we're strongly suggesting that they hire a high-level town staff official to execute the duties laid out in our plan.
Yes.
That's it right there in a nutshell. Tight. So that's the motion. Do we have a second? Or Butch, that's your job. Sorry.
All right. So we have a motion, and I think Jerry's got the second. Is that right?
Yes, you do.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? The only thing I would say is instead of saying suggest, I would say strongly recommend. I believe that's what Bill was talking about.
I like that.
Would you
I
accept that as you accept that as an amendment to your motion?
Yes, I do. I accept that amendment.
Are you okay with that, Jerry?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion as amended and a second. Any further discussion? All right. Then I'll ask Eileen to go down through the voting order so we can vote.
Mr. Dowling,
Yes.
Mr. Zarilla,
You're on mute.
Yes, I was on mute. I'm sorry. Yes.
Mr. Monmonier,
Yes.
Mr. Daly,
Yes.
Mr. Okama,
Yes.
Mr. Kasaya.
Yes.
Did I get everybody?
Okay. All right. Let's see. If we go on down through the agenda, I think we are we're here at the end. So do we have any further comments from commission members? I think that's the next thing.
Just a question for staff. When is the opening of Low Country Celebration Park?
Unofficially, I heard today in a CIP meeting that construction should be finished sometime within the next month or so, like mid-November, for substantial completion, and then final completion usually takes about 30 days after that. But they're still working through some stuff, so that's not a final open date at this point. As soon as we get that, we'll make sure the commission and the community know.
Okay. I'll be looking
It's
forward
coming
to it.
along. It's coming along really well. Staff
Yeah.
that's involved in it, that's managing it, that's doing the day-to-day construction on it, is doing a fantastic job.
Yes, my kids can't wait to get on the pirate ship.
It's not a pirate ship.
That's what
Yeah,
they call it.
I'd like to echo that it's really going to be a great park, and the staff's done a great job. I had seen something where there was supposed to be a celebration of the park. I think maybe the 24th of October. Is that still going on or not? I hope not, because I'm not going to be in town. So
Yeah, with COVID and the emergency ordinance and stuff, we can't schedule a gathering like that. So if we do a big celebration, it would probably be later in the spring.
Okay.
But we would probably open the park at some point for the community to start using it, just not for special events. And we would do a bigger ribbon cutting, if you will, later when it's safe to do so.
okay, all right. Any other comments from commissioners? Everybody's shaking their heads no, so except Jack, and we can't see him. So, okay, so at that point then, I would say thank you, Jack, for accepting the vice chair position. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. And with that, this meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.